Extended static sitting is a high-intensity biological event. While usually framed as an exercise in mental focus, the process is governed by the rigid mechanics of the physical body. Most practitioners reach a plateau because their internal systems hit a hard structural limit. These biological failure points prevent further progress, regardless of the individual's level of mental discipline. Meditation functions as a process of internal structural change. To succeed, the body must be maintained as a precisely tuned chemical and mechanical system. Simply sitting still for hours without addressing these mechanics does not lead to a deeper state of awareness. Without optimization, static practice subjects the organs and joints to unnecessary physical strain. We will use a fault tree analysis to identify why this happens. By mapping the 4 specific physiological failure points that occur during static practice, we can see exactly where the biological system breaks down. No amount of mental effort can overcome the limitations of a physical vessel experiencing systemic failure. The first failure point is a matter of timing. The body repairs its various systems in a strict sequential order. The first 60 minutes of a session are dedicated to surface-level maintenance. During this window, the body focuses exclusively on repairing the skin and the outer muscles. As illustrated, deep structural repair of tissues, tendons, and bones initiates only after the 90 to 120-minute mark. At this transition, the body hits a biological wall. Intense pain and blockages surface as repair shifts to deeper, rigid structures. Most people end their meditation session the moment they encounter this physical barrier. Because they stop sitting before the threshold is cleared, the deeper structural systems remain blocked. The repair cycle never reaches the organs or the bones. Without crossing the 120-minute mark, the session remains limited to shallow, surface-level maintenance. The second failure point involves the respiratory system. In a prolonged seated posture, the body's default breathing mechanics are often insufficient for the demands of the brain. This comparison shows that without active diaphragmatic breathing, a seated person utilizes roughly 40% of their total lung capacity. This limited expansion restricts total oxygen intake, reducing the energy available for cellular repair and mental focus. Over a long sitting, this deficit compounds. As seen in this vascular model, the brain becomes progressively oxygen-deprived when intake fails to meet metabolic demand. This deprivation creates a specific subjective experience. The practitioner feels foggy, semi-conscious, or enters a trance-like state. It is common for practitioners to mistake this state of mental dullness for a sign of meditative depth. In reality, this is a hypoxia response. Hypoxia is a state of oxygen starvation that triggers a physiological stress reaction in the brain. Chronic exposure to this state subjects neural tissues to oxidative stress. Over thousands of hours of practice, this oxygen starvation can lead to long-term neurodegeneration and damaged brain function. The third failure point arises from the static nature of the practice itself. Human circulation relies on movement to function efficiently. Without supplemental movement, such as prostrations or cardio, systemic blood flow slows down significantly during a sitting. This drop in circulation makes cellular oxygen exchange inefficient, preventing the body from flushing out metabolic waste. This inefficiency produces reactive oxygen species, or ROS. ROS are unstable molecules, free radicals, that react with and damage cellular structures. In a static body, these free radicals are not flushed out. Instead, they pool in the joints, internal organs, and the brain. This accumulation leads to chronic inflammation and internal degeneration, causing physical damage to the very tissues the practitioner is trying to heal. Static sitting without a protocol to clear these toxins effectively poisons the organism. The fourth failure point is dietetic. What is in the digestive system determines whether the lungs can physically function. A heavy or improper diet creates 2 simultaneous barriers to success, one chemical and one mechanical. Chemically, poor digestion thickens the blood, making it harder for the heart to transport oxygen to the brain. Mechanically, heavy food causes abdominal organs to expand. As this cross-section shows, a bloated stomach presses directly upward against the diaphragm. It acts as a physical obstruction, preventing downward movement, making the deep, full breaths required for oxygenation impossible. This mechanical blockage forces the body back into shallow breathing, which ensures the brain remains in a state of dullness and fatigue. Ignoring diet physically locks the diaphragm from the inside. This makes the physiological shifts required for progress mechanically impossible to achieve. When we look at the body as a whole, the requirements for success become clear. To even reach the 120-minute threshold, a practitioner must balance a clean diet, active mechanical movement, and intentional diaphragmatic breathing. The body is the primary bottleneck. Achieving physiological mastery is the prerequisite for moving beyond basic practice. However, even if the physical method is completely flawless, even if the biological machine is perfectly optimized, fully oxygenated, and cleared of all physical blockages, every practitioner will eventually hit an ultimate ceiling that halts all forward momentum. This final ceiling is no longer physical.